Tom, you and her have to write a book. I'll be the first person in line to get it. And you got to do signings. You and her have to write a book.
Well, thank you. We've talked about it, on occasion, but we just haven't done it. And I think about the passage of time and just how it's made a lot of things clear that were not so clear 10 years ago about various individuals that Michael was involved with. Various pressures he had to live under. And probably if we did a book, it'd be a much better one now with the passage of time, I think.
Are you kidding me? Do you know, and I know as a regular Joe in society, I already know several people that he thought were his friends, along with his immediate family, who have turned on him not even a year after he died.
Yeah, I know.
It's
well, I was there at his darkest hour when, we talked on many occasions about people he thought were his close friends, he thought would rally to his support, and they were nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen.
Let me ask you something. Where were all these people that this guy grew up with and came up with? Where was Lionel Richie at?
Well, I don't want to name names, in this interview.
Where were all these people at? No, they all came out after he died.
Yes, I agree with
you.
And
that made me sick. Let me tell you, to this day, over 5 years later, I still have not watched his memorial, which was more like a concert show, in full. Because it was just, it just really disturbed me, because they all came out, I knew Michael all these years, and he was this, and he was that, and I'm like, where were you, and you, when this guy was on trial for his life?
I absolutely sympathize with everything you're saying. In fact, I was watching Larry King after Michael died, and these people were appearing who were acting like they were his closest friends, and I knew the truth. I knew how many of them wanted nothing to do with the trial, nothing to do with testifying, and it was a very, very sad chapter for Michael in many ways, including finding out that people he thought would be loyal to him and helpful to him just were nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, they were all worried about their career. I wanted to know where the hell Diana Ross was at.
I'm not going to name names, except I've said many times that Chris Tucker and Macaulay Culkin were such stand-up people. Stevie Wonder was stand-up. We didn't need to call Stevie, but we did call Macaulay and we called Chris, and they told their managers, their lawyers, their agents, their advisors, we're going to go there whenever Michael needs us. No one's stopping us. And these were young guys, successful, popular, and everyone around them was nervous about their jumping into this trial except them. Yeah. Chris Tucker and Macaulay Culkin, I met them separately. I knew that everybody was putting this pressure on them not to come, and they told me, when Michael needs us, we're there. These charges are nonsense. I'll never forget those guys. I really never will.
Yeah, that's what you call real stand-up people, real stand-up guys.
Absolutely.
So there you go. But I'll let you guys go. I hope to talk with you again soon.
Very, very nice to talk to you. Thank you for calling.
Take care.
You too.
Indeed. Okay, let's go out to 508. Please state your name and where you're calling from. You're on the phone with Tom Mesereau.
Oh, hi. This is Nancy. I'm calling from New England. How are you?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to call in and thank you for all you do. And I also wanted to mention I read the Randall Sullivan book, and although I didn't really care for it, I did notice that Harvey Levin just did from TMZ, which I thought was really unusual. So I think that somebody else didn't like what he wrote in there either that wasn't a fan. I think it was somebody who had some power. Otherwise, I don't think that, Harvey Levin would have butt in on that kind of stuff. I noticed he didn't really carry the AEG suit and all that stuff. So,
it's an opinionated book, and it's a controversial book. And I don't expect anybody to like all of it. But I'm looking at things from a particular perspective. And my perspective is that, these pedophilia allegations were the worst thing to hit Michael Jackson in his lifetime. And there's nothing worse than being called a pedophile or a child molester. Right. Nothing worse. Being called a murderer is in some ways, more desirable than being called a pedophile. And so and having had the role I had in his defense, this issue is very important to me. So I'm always looking for ways to persuade people that this very, very wonderful guy was not a pedophile, was not a child molester, could never imagine abducting children, harming children, sexually abusing children. And I looked at Randall's analysis, and if you look at one of his footnotes towards the end, he really expresses sympathy for Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. I forget the exact words he used, but he said basically, I think he was a nice person, and I hope he rests in peace. And, I just felt that if enough people read this book and didn't think the book was authored by a particular fan of Michael, that it might have more persuasive value.
Right.
And that's why I was so upset when certain powers that be tried to bury it.
Well,
the estate put out, campaign.
Yeah, the estate put something out because they didn't like the book, that it was a bad book. And,
well, of course, the people in the estate were criticized.
Right, and so were the people at AEG, and that's, in my opinion, somebody, not the fans, obviously, had something to do with TMZ getting involved and saying it was a book.
Yeah, I do think Sullivan had integrity. I think he approached the subject, not being for or against Michael. I think he approached it with the idea that I'm a professional journalist. I'm going to go where the evidence takes me. And it ended up taking him to a pretty favorable place.
Yeah.
He interviewed members of the Chandler family who, from what I'm told, would not talk to anyone else. And he still concluded that I think the evidence tips in favor of Michael Jackson. Now, maybe he didn't present it in these glowing terms that a lot of fans would prefer, but to me, the way he did it, as I said many times on the show, has more persuasive value with people who either don't like Michael Jackson or want to think the worst of him. So I think in the long run, he did a lot to help his reputation.
Okay. Mr. Mesereau, you also, since you brought up integrity, I wanted to talk to you. I had watched the Frozen in Time thing you did with I couldn't believe it. I mean, the guy that was supposed to be representing Michael Jackson in 93, 94, I mean, he seemed non-existent. He was like this guy Larry Feldman. I mean, it's amazing how he plays people to me. But I just thought that he totally forgot about defending his client because he was so busy, talking about
who are you talking about now? Who are you talking about?
Carl Douglas, is that his name?
He was in the 93 case. That's correct.
Right.
He was working with Johnny Cochran.
Right, and he just basically talked about how much money he made off Michael Jackson, talk about this, talk about it. I mean, he did nothing to really defend him at that. And the only person who was defending him was you. But at any rate, Mr. Zonin is a very, very bright guy, brilliant lawyer, in my opinion, because I've read the transcript.
He is. I've never faced a better prosecutor than him.
No, but I don't understand why he put his reputation at stake for this. Because to me, I think they knew before they ever walked in there that the RVs were lying. I think they knew from who they didn't call and from changing timelines and all that stuff. I mean, they had to have known. And he's up there still. I mean, everybody in that room seemed to be talking like Michael Jackson was convicted, except you. You know what I mean? I think they convinced themselves that they were in the right. People have a way of doing that. Human beings have an enormous capacity for convincing themselves of what they want to believe. And I agree with you. If you look at things objectively, how could they possibly have thought these people were truthful witnesses? How could they possibly have thought they were going to be believed? But I think they said to themselves, all we need is one count to send them to state prison. All we need is one conviction on one count to emerge victorious. And they felt that, cumulatively speaking, even if the Arvizos had problems, and even if some of the other witnesses had problems, this is a very conservative community. These are horrific allegations. As I said before, there's nothing worse than being called a child molester. And I think they felt that they could at least squeak through with one conviction and send him to prison. That's what I think their attitude was. So, like, I mean, they didn't try to plea bargain or anything, stacking all those charges.
There were never any discussions about plea bargain.
So they just wanted to get him in court and destroy him. So
I think they wanted this big showcase trial. I believe. I think they thought they were going to be stars on the world stage. I really do.
Yeah.
But you know something? If they'd even broached the subject of a plea bargain, we would have said no. Michael wasn't pleading guilty to anything. He wasn't going to do that.
But you know, I mean, like, even the AEG trial, I know that Wade Robson came out with this stuff, and you know, I'm not buying it. And it seems to me it's very orchestrated, and there's just so much social. It's just so obvious to me. But that's all. You know, I don't believe him. Put it that way. And it's, you know, I just wonder who's behind him or whatever. I think probably he failed at, you know, directing, and, you know, he's got a big ego. And, you know, there you go. There goes your career. You're no longer relevant there. So it's got to be somebody else's fault why you faltered. But long and short,
well, it's just amazing that he's being attacked, you know, 5 years after his death, you know, the way they attacked him when he was alive. People aren't giving up. They still see this big sum of money around.
Well, there's so much money and so much press. You know, it's really sad. But if you look at, I look at Mr. Zonin. He's so smart. He's so bright. The AEG trial, basically, I mean, I know Wade came out with this stuff right before the AEG thing, and it coincided with the Vegas shows that he lost. You know, and Mr. Branca said it was over a contract, which I believe. But long and short of it is the AEG trial cleared him too. Everybody who came in said, you know, this was all, you know, ridiculous. And his medical records basically cleared him. His autopsy, if you're looking at it, you know, it shows he had vitiligo. Well, Gavin Arvizo says he was totally white when he finally remembered that none of this makes, how can Mr. Zonin not see this, even now? I mean, his own
Ron Zonin, as I've said many times, was a terrific prosecutor. He's a passionate, powerful advocate. He comes across very passionate, very powerful, very smart. I've never faced a better prosecutor than him. But he had blinders on. He had blinders on, and he still has them on. If you meet him, to this day, I think he's bitter. I think he and Snedden think they were cheated out of some great chapter, glorious chapter in life. That's how I view it.
I saw Mr. Zonin on some local TV show out of California. And I won't keep you. I know other people want to talk to you. But it was like this little old lady and her husband, and she said, well, I think Michael Jackson was innocent. And he, was bananas on this old lady. It was bizarre, you know? But I don't understand how he can marry Louise Palanker, who said these kids were, she said on tape or something, these kids were brought up to lie. I mean, it's right in your face. I just don't get it. But at any rate, I won't keep you. I just wanted to thank you so much for all you've done for him, and other people, too. You know,
well, thank you so much, and very nice to talk to you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, Tom, we have a Facebook question that came in. Dial Dancer Facebook wants to know about the case in Pennsylvania. If you heard they're allegedly charging a 10-year-old boy as an adult for killing a 90-year-old person. A, did you hear about that? And B, what do you think of the charges?
Well, I heard about it, but I don't know anything about the facts. But the idea of trying a 10-year-old boy as an adult is very, very upsetting to me. Now, I don't know who this boy is. I don't know exactly what this boy did or why he did it. But, you know, I look at my life and how many things, you know, I've had to learn every step of the way, and I'm still learning, you know. And the idea that a 10-year-old is supposed to know who they are and have a mature perspective on themselves and life, I just don't see it. I think he should be tried in juvenile court. I think they should make every effort to rehabilitate this person. To try a 10-year-old as an adult and then throw the 10-year-old, if he's convicted, in adult prison is absolute barbarity, in my opinion. But I don't know anything about the facts. I don't know. I just saw a little blurb on it, and that's all I know. But 10-year-olds should not be tried as adults. They should not be punished as adults. They should not be treated as adults. They're 10-year-olds. They're kids. That's how I see it.
Right.